So yeah, this video, as you can see from the title, is just fragrances of broken heart. Well, it's something we all go through, isn't it? And it's obviously a thing very connected to grief, which is it's a bizarre emotion to give human beings, I think, because it's paralysing. It's quite awful, isn't it? And don't worry, next week this will be balanced out to fragrances of love or something or other. I really can't remember what I did with that. It was obviously weeks ago. I'm all over with filming. Anyway, these are just going to be kind of fragrances to kind of go through them stages and that. And it is, you know, it is one of the most painful human emotions, I think. One of the hardest to deal with, that feeling of loss and helplessness. Again, I'm not sure what good it does, really. And you know, we like I say, we've all gone through this at one point in our lives, and will do again probably. It's just it was what makes us human in the end, I guess. And sometimes one of the hardest parts about it is it's not something you probably ever get over. I don't know, be it like the grief, the loss of a loved one, or the end of a relationship. I think you can still find yourself in years not quite fully over it, and doesn't always mean that there's fault there, or anything like that, and that can probably make it harder, can't it? But it's a normal thing. And I know every video is a bit gloomy at the moment, but it is November after all. We know what a broken heart is. I'm not going to waffle. So kind of the first, the impact is that not really wanting to accept it, isn't it? As I suppose is one way. Not understanding it, thinking there's a way out of it. There might be in some cases, but generally speaking, they've made up their mind. Might, and again, as the broken-hearted, we do feel kind of like it's only us that hurts. I don't believe that's true, is it? I've generally been on the on the receiving end. May not surprise everyone. And then it's this kind of, yeah. So the first part is kind of the person, them. The kind of, what do you mean it? This can't be true. This can't be happening. So all you're kind of thinking about is them. And I suppose one that would represent that to me is kind of predictable, isn't it? And that's Mugler's Alien. There's just a magic about that one. Something that gets me and gets a grip of me and takes me away, and it's addictive, and it's something I want more and more and more of. And that kind of the smelling of the musks on them, the unbearable want and need for them. And I think that very much comes through Alien. We all know Alien. It's kind of jasmine, dark musks, the cashmere, dark jasmine. Even the older version, a little bit of a kind of aromatic, almost licoricey kind of feel there. It's an amazing fragrance, and it's one of a kind. And for me personally, that would represent them, because, like I say, Alien has this power over me where it's only that fragrance. If I only ever smell that fragrance, I'd probably be happy. And it just traps you. The trap's the wrong word. It sucks you in and makes you addicted and need it and long it and want to sniff more and more and more. So yeah, that's for kind of the first stage. And I mean, these aren't necessarily in any sort of order. I'm not a psychologist or anything. But next, the stage that hits you hardest is probably mourning, isn't it? That, and mourning is more than being upset or sad or hurt. Mourning is an unbearable, uncontrollable thing that takes over you. No matter what you do, how busy you keep, what you think, where you go, anything, mourning and sad, that sad loss just completely envelops you. and you can't see any way out of it, and it's despairing, and all you can think about again is them. So yeah, I mean, we don't need to go too much into that. We know what it is. So what fragrance have I picked for that? Well, Viole from Mio Fusciuni. Now this one is, it's like poetic. It is. It starts off with a despairing, barren winter. There's nothing there. It's all mauve and kind of depressing and melancholic. And then slowly it starts to flower through with the greener notes and the violet. But again, as it warms up, and that isn't necessarily always comforting, is it? The winter can be a traumatic season, and the sweetness and all that delight that eventually comes, you can't ever imagine that coming when you're in this kind of way of thinking. Plus you don't really appreciate it because the pain and the hurt is so much and so strong. So for the kind of the morning kind of feeling is Viole Nere from the office. The next stage, moving towards the end of the deep despairing grim morning where everything is black and you're drowning in it, is kind of, well, for me, I'd say maybe the kind of you start to long for them. It's starting to settle in, and you get that feeling that I kind of can't breathe without them, and you miss them, and you miss every little thing. Every bit of you is aching and sad, and it's like a starvation and need. And again, that starts to dominate your thoughts, and all you want is just them again. Again, this relates so much to death as well as like a romantic broken heart. It's just that need just to say one more thing, to hug them one more time. You know, it's just to be around them, to feel them in your presence. And this again is a long, painful stage, isn't it? And what I've gone for that is found at Dusk from Miller Harris, and I think this one is one of them that's very nostalgic. It is very pleasant. It's quite a happy scent in a way. It's like a green blackcurrant bush to me, more or less. You get that sweetness and the green and the kind of that springy feeling. But I think again, the problem with that is them little flecks of goodness and the sweetness there. That's like the little flecks of the good memories just make you long more and want it more and want to be back there. Hence the feeling of nostalgia, and it's just this yearning kills you. You don't want to eat, drink, like I say, all you want to do is touch them. And I think Found at Dusk from Miller Harris is a good one for longing. I'm not going to patter on. I then think we kind of move into another kind of strange thing, and one thing that we will always do, be it grief or broken hearts and what have you, is we develop a strong, bitter hatred and self-loathing of ourselves. If only we could have done it a different way. If only we could have been someone else. If only we could have been better. If only we could have been what they wanted. If only we could have spent 5 more minutes with them before it happened. And it's all that kind of anger and seething at ourselves. Thing is, relationships don't always end because you've done something wrong or because of anything you could have done. They just end. The person might not love you anymore. What can you do about it? There's nothing you can do about that, and that isn't necessarily because of something you've done, or it could be some other really complicated reason, you know, like you're moving countries or whatever. But there's lots of reasons, and it could possibly be your fault. You could be a complete knobhead, but again, hating yourself over it. Learn for next time, innit? But hating yourself over it ain't gonna change it, ain't gonna make it better. It's not gonna undo it. It can't. It's happened, and that, yeah, it's again a really hard emotion. I think the theme with all these emotions is you can't really control them, and that's why this is such a painful experience, isn't it? And what I've gone for that is just thinking of a fragrance that was bitter. Is Lush coffee cardamom, or cardamom coffee, whatever it's called. This one is exceptionally bitter on me. I do like it. It's like a very kind of fresh coffee. It's just been made. It's strong. It's some of the beans. It's some of the coffee. It does sweeten up and smooth up a bit later on. But it starts off, yeah, it's bitter and a bit ack, like a coffee is, I suppose. And I just think it kind of suits that idea of bitterness and disliking yourself. And again, I suppose another theme of it is as the fragrance develops, it does smooth out and it does become a bit better. And the cardamom and the nutmeg, there's a nutmeg in this one, whatever, kind of become less sharp and a bit more kind of good feeling. So for that self-loathing and anger at yourself is Lush's cardamom. Again, these aren't always in a kind of particular order, and you know, maybe necessarily won't feel them all. But I think the next stage is a kind of deep darkness, a kind of a desperation in us, great despair, where you are now at the bottom of the hole, and the earth is filling in around you, and you've realised there's nothing you can do to change this. There's nothing you can do to undo it. This is how it is, and this is what you've got to face. You've got to face that kind of nothingness now. That it's gone. It's finished. You know. And what are you going to do? How are you going to cope? And I think a good one to match this is Gucci's Guilty Absolute, the male one. This is a fragrance personally I can't really enjoy or like, but to me it reminds me of death. It reminds me of morticians. It's like this kind of dark green leatheriness that reminds me of them chemicals used to kind of in a mortuary, or to kind of hide that dank smell. And it's also got this kind of woody, dense, harrowing to me coughing thing about it. And I think when you get to this stage, that's where you are. The despair, the pain is reached its peak. You're stuck. You're in agony. You're trapped, and it's scary and it's terrifying. And you don't know what to do or how to get out of it. So yeah, for the dark despair is Gucci Guilty Absolute. Then comes probably the longest phase for a lot of us, and you know, this goes with mental health issues as well as death and romantic broken hearts, and that's the numbness, the emptiness, the nothingness, the not being able to feel. And if you do, because you're trying to stop yourself feeling crap, you sure as hell can't feel a particular happiness or fulfillment or anything in anything you do. It's all just nothing. It's robotic. You just barely exist. You're not living anymore. Food doesn't taste good. Music doesn't sound good, and you try to avoid anything that make you feel worse than that. So it's the never-ending bleak numbness. And what I've gone for that is Encens Suave from Matiere. Don't get me wrong, it's a nice fragrance, but it does have this kind of, to me anyway, coldness running through it. It's a chilled kind of almost, yeah, frosty's not the right word, it's not as strong as that, but it's cool and crisp, and the incense going through it is even quite cool and crisp. In the right frame of mind, it can be quite, you know, meditative and relaxing, but otherwise, yeah, you'll feel that coldness. that kind of endless nothingness, and the numbness. It's just a way of life, and you're going, this is all right. It's not particularly exciting me or whatever. And there's still, Encens Suave has this added bonus of it has coffee going through it, so that bitterness is still there in flex. You're still flicking back to them former feelings and pushing yourself just to feel more and more numb. And I think it's a kind of good one for that stage. So that's Encens Suave from Matiere Premier. Next, this could take years, is the kind of acceptance. You might not be completely moved on or whatever, but it is just that acceptance. Maybe you feel a bit silly at yourself as well because it's taken so long, but there is no guidelines or time limit for grief and heartbreak and stuff like that. It takes as long as it takes. We're human, and you know, it's not the days where you're like, pull your socks up, man up, do this. Don't fix anything, really, does it? But yeah, you've reached the kind of the stage of acceptance, and I've gone for Amouage's Imitation, and I've gone for this one particularly because it links back to the longing, and it's a similar fragrance, but it's then taking the positives out of it into this stage. That kind of, it just is what it is kind of thing, and that's Amouage's Imitation, like I said. And this one is not the same as found at Dusk, but it is the same black currant, except this one's a bit more fruity and a bit darker, and get a bit more kind of oomph from it, and the greenness is still there and all around. And don't get me wrong, there's a licorice running through it, so is the black despair. It's still there. So yeah, it is good. It's a beautiful fragrance. I like it's just that found at Dusk amped up. So maybe there's a bit of hope there now coming through. A bit of looking forward. The winter is getting close to an end, and the spring is bursting through and all of that, maybe. So yeah, that's Imitation from Amouage. The next is with the acceptance. Is they're still missing them, but not in a painful, despairing, kind of aching, end of the world kind of way. You still have that yearning, and it may never go, but you kind of like, yeah, it is what it is. So what I've gone for that is, you know, it's a special one, mate, to me is Le Petit Robe Noir Black Perfecto, and it kind of is. It's kind of a memory of them, who they were, and we all know this one has quite an effect on me. Remembering the times with them and some of the kind of meeting them, and when that love blossomed, and why it all did. Yeah, it's gone. It doesn't mean the feelings or anything like that ever goes. Say we move on. It's not a bad thing. It's not the same as obsession, which some of the others kind of fall into. It's just a sadness, but an acceptance. And with a fragrance like that, the cherry, the leather, the musks, the kind of licoriciness again going through it, it just gives you this bit of, yeah, it was good, wasn't it? And yeah, don't need to waffle on. It's not a particularly long section. We all know what it means. So yeah, the kind of missing them but accepting it is Guerlain's Le Petit Robe Noir Black. And finally, when you look back in years to come, it might still hurt. It could take decades, who knows. And this goes for both sorts of that deep grief. Is remembering the good times, and remembering the good times and smiling. I think it was good, wasn't it? That's part of who I am now, and it always will be. And what I've picked for that is from Jusbox, and it's a fragrance called Sirens and Sailors. Now, there's obviously, we know Dr. Claire Smith calls this a naughty party. Yeah, it's lots of booze, sweet booze, sweet roses. There's a nice kind of leatheriness running through it. It's just got a lot of joy and a lot of brightness, naughtiness. Just times where you just kind of go, that was the best. That was. Yeah, sorry about that. They were the best days, the good days, and some things to hold on into our memories, because all these memories, good and bad, make us who we are, and that's why we have memories, to think about them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there, would they? And when good memories stop hurting so much, there's time to embrace them. So anyway, that's from Jusbox, and that's Sirens and Saints. So yeah, hopefully just a brief video. It's not always grim, and again, we'd all be lying if we said we hadn't been through this in some way, shape or form, or we hadn't cried ourselves to sleep at night, where we haven't felt the despair and the darkness, and like I say again, it makes us human. It's best not to hold on to that, to let it go. But again, that's not as simple as anything. Again, if you're starting to get obsessive or harming yourself or anybody else, you need help. But otherwise, it's all fairly normal. Again, I don't know what purpose it serves. I don't know why we need to feel it. You know, maybe you'll meet somebody else and you'll all be happy and you'll go through all this again. And the thing is, if you aren't heartbroken and it doesn't kill you, then you probably weren't all that in love anyway. And that's, you know, it's good or bad. But if you were, it's meant to hurt. You're meant to put your heart on the line. And I suppose the more you go through it, the more kind of cynical and bitter you get. You know, and then you get to a cynical, bitter age like ours, where you don't really want it anymore. And why would you? Yeah, the happiness is good, but I suppose it never lasts. That's not for everyone. That's a personal, subjective John opinion. And then when you do meet someone, your barriers are up so high, and that self-defense and that kind of protection of yourself is there, that it might not go any further. And because you're worried when it does, you're going to end up back in that place again. And it's all human. We're all human. We're all different. And life wouldn't be worth living if there wasn't pain or anguish or torture or sadness through it. You can't appreciate the good things without the bad things. Anyway, you don't need a lecture from me. I apologise. You can probably hear I am absolutely bunged up with cold and don't feel particularly great, which is a perfect time to do this video. The weather's grim, I'm grim. Yes, I know, no change there, but yeah. What about you? Do you think there are different stages of going through this? How would you scent the different stages? Are there more? I mean, you're welcome to tell me in the comments. I don't think any of my watchers are like this, but if you've never had a broken heart, good on you. What did you wear to avoid that? I suppose maybe there's a magic fragrance that just stops it all. Right folks, thanks for watching. Bye.